Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and here's another Forbidden Music. And we're going back to the Beatles well, because the $10 and up patron one, I'm going to be getting into a kinks phase for those. That the purpose of that is to give something special to patrons, so I talk for about as long as I talk for these, up to or more than 10 minutes, about the track that I'm demonstrating, and then I play it. And for the $10 and up, it's on another channel, and it is playing the track all the way through, just like this, but you get to hear all of it because it's a band that has allowed their music to be played for a React video on YouTube. And of course, Forbidden is exactly the same thing, and emphatically including me talking for a long time about it, because that's, in a sense, all you get. But it's also about me playing the track, and even though the audio is interfered with by my plugin ContentID, where you only get to hear snippets, I'm metering the whole thing. And this is an interesting example. I'm going to be playing you the track Good Morning, off of Sgt. Pepper. And it seems to me this is one of the John ones. And in fact, I know it is because of one of the things towards the end. Some of the details about Good Morning are as follows. This has distorted saxophones on it. I'm pretty sure that was something that they did. I think they also were doing it for Savoy Truffle on the White Album, but I think this is an early case of distorting the sax solo to make it heavier. And it's got sort of that old Beatles things panned in weird directions, because this is old school. This, again, is into the old red console before they had the TG12345 console. So it's acting like a 4 or 8 track, or perhaps not even 8. I don't think so. I think this is the 4 and 4, meaning that they had 2 4-track machines, and sometimes they'd bounce stuff back and forth. I know that because I've seen some of the bootlegs of the tracks from this album, although I don't know necessarily what the provenance of that stuff is, whether it's really true, whether it's really accurate. But this is extremely strong in Airwindows Meter. Like, when I play this, check out what it's doing in terms of the peak energy. It's exactly the same Beatles formula there of the entire top 6 dB of the sound is just saturated in hot peaks that are all a very specific shade of blue that is associated with a balance of peak energy and high frequency content, because the shade of color in the top meter and the color in the bottom meter is purely a factor of how much brightness is happening with a particular level of peak energy. And you're never actually seeing RMS energy at all. Most audio meters are RMS energy, and with the Airwindows meter, you never see RMS energy at all. You're only seeing peaks. So it's all of what's happening in the area that you normally don't see on the meter, and you only see it by a clip indicator maybe, if the peak has gone too far. But mostly you think in terms of, well, there's my sound, it's the RMS, and then there's the empty space between that and the top of the scale. So clearly I need to get rid of all the peaks. Au contraire. No, you don't. Making the peaks do these kinds of things has real usefulness. And although I've been working too hard on things, here is another glimpse at the stomp box I've been trying to develop as well. This is a little breadboard. I've got it built. This is almost certainly what I'm going to be using going forward. There's 2 variations of this. One of them is that. The other one is that with a foot pedal, a foot switch, so you could turn it on and off. And then there will be a simpler version that is just that as an input stage. They'll all need a Boss-style power supply of 9 volts. And yeah, that's coming together. And as usual, I'm doing things that nobody else does. And I'm pretty happy with where that's leading me. But it's making it more difficult for me to think of useful things to say about the tracks that I'm demonstrating. So maybe I'll just stick to the final little details of what I know about this track, which you might or might not have, maybe everybody knows this by now. I don't care. I got to get back to work anyway. I got to edit all these videos. So it's like, whatever. And since it's a forbidden, you don't actually get to hear all of the music, but you'll get to hear little glimpses of it, and it will give you a solid idea of certain details of what the tone is like, certain details of, for instance, how loud the voice is mixed, how distorted things are, because you can get the gist of how distorted things are by how upfront and saturated they are, compared to the known sound of if you recorded something with no distortion whatsoever. You're probably used to what that sounds like because default recording on digital audio workstations is no distortion unless you specifically put it there. And I'm working on ways of putting it there, but you'll hear that this is pretty upfront and saturated. Again, it's tube consoles, it's all that kind of stuff. And the detail that comes to mind before I get back to work and run around doing a bunch of other things is the animal noises at the end. I believe I got this out of Jeff Emmerich's book, Here, There, and Everywhere. And you can't necessarily go by Jeff Emmerich in everything. I've got musical friends who were also working around these time periods. And some of them are like, oh man, Jeff was full of it. He was telling stories about some of these people. He's really unforgiving of some folks and then more forgiving of others. Jeff didn't really like John Lennon very much. He was very into Paul McCartney, but he didn't really like John very much. And so he's he's down on Lennon some of the time in his autobiography. But what he does say is, even though Lennon tended to be like stoned a lot and difficult to work with, a more challenging personality, a more challenging man, he had a very specific idea for the sounds of the animals at the end of this track. At the end of this track, there was to be a succession of animals. Those are not random. Each animal that comes in, and you won't hear all of them, but it's over the back end of the track, and you probably can hear this track somewhere else, right? Each animal had to be an animal big enough to scare or eat the previous animal. So it kind of breaks down after a certain point. They stop having them, but it's like a noise, and then you got a cat, and then there's a dog barking, and then there's a stampede of horses, and it gets a little weird, the roars and things. It breaks down a bit, but that was the idea, was that you're going to have this burst of animals over the end of the track, and each animal has to be able to scare away the previous one. Go figure. It's a very John Lennon-y thing to do. And with no further ado, and again, without actually getting to hear the music, but you'll hear snippets of it. And although you don't really, if you're good at hearing the sounds of mixes, you can still get information out of this, even though it's forbidden to be played on YouTube. Hearing these little snippets of it can give you a sense of what's going on in the track, and then you compare that with the Airwindows Meter, and looking at what that track does in practice, hopefully it'll be some kind of useful guide. It'll show you what can be done and what was very successful in the past, because this is one of the hugest records ever. And the sound of it plays a role. With that, good morning to good morning, good morning.
His wife and the day, how's your to do? It's up, got nothing to say. Good morning, don't wanna go. Think the home you start. is like a ruin. Rome, you're in the street. After a while you start. Then you old school. Still the same to say, but it's town is getting dark. It's time for tea and me. It needs to know. Watching the in gear. You hope she goes.